Hello and welcome to the RG10 Podcast. Now, as spring bursts into life, there's one event in our area that brings colour, creativity and community together like no other, and that is the Henley Arts Trail. Now in its 19th year, the trail has become a much-loved fixture on the early May bank holiday calendar, inviting visitors to explore everything from sculpture and ceramics to painting and printmaking, all tucked away in unexpected venues across the RG9 and RG10 postcodes. I've been speaking to Emma Payne, one of the artists flinging open her studio doors to the public.
It was started by a group of women, a group of artists, and it's grown every year. And with Wendy Penrose taking it over a couple of years ago, it's really seen a kind of monumental growth. I think like digital media, Instagram. So the Henley Arts Trail is kept alive throughout the year, as well as the sort of main weekend in May. And it's artists opening up their studios or having exhibitions with friends and colleagues all around Henley. So if you're based kind of in the RG10 area, RG9 area, then it's an opportunity to get involved in the community and highlight your work and what you spend the other 11 months of the doing, but behind closed doors. And
Emma, an awful lot of it is about the venues. It gives people a chance to visit places they might not normally be able to.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, like Leander joined last year and they're a big venue, a members venue, but they open up their doors for sculpture in the heart of Henley. Wineries and things like that also open their doors to the public, as well as studios, so artist studios that are usually maybe a bit chaotic and a bit of a mess, get a spruce up. It's the one time of the year that my studio is clean. I use it as an excuse for a spring clean. But people don't really come to your studio otherwise, so it is really like a kind of a glimpse into an artist's mind. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
And it's not just about going to a venue, is it? Seeing a painting on the wall. There's much more to it than that. There's all kind of art that's on display, and you can get refreshments as well.
Yeah, so some venues have food trucks come, or sort of like catering, like pizzas and things like that, so you can go and kind of hang out at the venue, especially the first weekend of May. Usually the weather is good. So at my venue, we're based on a farm and there's like a big field and people are encouraged to bring picnics and just kind of hang out and socialize and have a look at artwork and be a bit immersed in the artwork. There's sculptures kind of dotted around. And then some venues, the artists themselves make tea and cakes and you can just pop along and have a kind of coffee and a homemade brownie as you wander around and kind of window shop or shop as well. Some people buy stuff every year from the same artists and have built up quite a collection. And that's quite nice. You make a weekend of it, you go and see them and you buy something little and you kind of build up your own gallery of the Arts Trail.
How important is it for artists to get that direct connection with customers?
I think, having said like that you kind of are closed doors the other 11 months of the year, I think it's so nice to get positive feedback. Or even if it's not positive, just any kind of feedback, because a lot of artists are working on their own, so they don't have that kind of banter that an office worker would have maybe. So it's quite nice to have people say like, oh my God, that looks like Auntie Jean, how terrifying, or whatever. It's just quite nice to have input into your art, as well as kind of seeing people enjoying it, because you're not doing it just for yourself. You are doing it to eventually go into someone's home and be enjoyed by someone. So I think it's really important to get it out there and get conversations. And you never know, someone might say, have you tried doing it in red or pink or in a different material? And you might think, no, I haven't tried that actually. And then you might go away and try something new just from these conversations that you're having. Because the people that come to the art trail are also kind of into art and creative in some way as well. So the conversations are always very interesting.
It's interesting actually what you said just a moment ago about art sometimes being quite solitary. How do artists cope with that? How do you cope with that?
I'm quite lucky in that I have a part-time job where I interact with people a lot. But in my studio, it definitely, I think in the Sonning Common Post Office, I must be the local crazy lady because I turn up at like 3:55, 5 minutes before the post goes, and I'm covered in clay, like covered in white powder. And I haven't spoken to anyone that day yet. And I asked to send something out to a client in a last minute kind of dash. And my voice is croaky because I haven't used it yet all day. And they're like, who is this crazy lady? So it is nice when you get to interact with people because, and also again with like social media, I sell through my website, so I don't necessarily meet the people that it's going to. So it's quite nice to like physically hand over an item and for people to touch it and think like, oh, this is smoother than it looks on a photograph or shinier or whatever. And yeah, it's nice to interact with people. But yeah, I'm very lucky because of my part-time job, so I get a bit of banter that way.
And since you've been kind enough to spare some time to talk to me today, it's only fair that we give your work a bit of a plug. You're a ceramicist, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm a potter or a ceramicist, and I studied in London, and then I did a master's in Copenhagen. And then when I moved back, I worked with an architect, and that kind of avenue of working has continued. So I tend to work with architects and interior designers making bespoke pieces for households. So it might be a kitchen splashback, it might be a sink for a bathroom, doorknobs or coat hooks or something like that. But then I also have a homeware range, which is plates and vases and candles and things like that as well.
Emma, you also mentioned that you've got a part-time job, and that explains the hustle and bustle we can hear going on around you at the moment. That's not a cafe in Henley High Street that you're talking from, but you're in the middle of London. I suppose that emphasises, if you like, how difficult it is for art to be someone's full-time job.
Yes, it is hard. It is very hard. I think as well, people love the handmade thing, but don't maybe necessarily love the price tag of the handmade. So I think there's this constant battle between those two things. But yeah, it's also, like I said, I think most people have a part-time job, but that also gives you something. The job that I have in London is for a pottery. So it still influences my ceramic work in my own studio. And then in a way, I can take my own studio into that work. So I think a lot of creatives tend to teach or in some ways still stay in their field, but when someone pays you regularly for it.
Let's go back to the Arts Trail itself then. And there is something called the Art Spark competition. Tell me a bit about that.
So that was an initiative started last year, again, kind of Wendy Penrose spearheading that, in trying to get young people interested in art and also the Arts Trail. So I think Wendy's really keen in getting younger people involved in the Arts Trail so that it keeps young and current. And part of that is taking some money from the Henley Arts Society and focusing that into art in a younger generation. So it's a competition for, I think, 16 to 18-year-olds to have a one-on-one session with one of the artists on the Arts Trail that they can select. And then they get kind of one-to-one tuition in that art form. So last year it was oil painting. The two artists both chose oil painting. And this year their work will be exhibited as part of the Arts Trail. And then this year there was been 3 Art Spark winners. A new prize was added in Judith Fletcher's memory, because she was one of the kind of founders of the Arts Trail and sadly passed away this year. So there's 3 winners this year, and they will choose an artist to have a one-on-one with to kind of keep their interest going, but also give them kind of some direction. And also that the conversations that happen during that one-on-one is how to be an artist full-time, and what does that mean, and how do you make it work? If you love art, how do you make it work for you as a lifestyle?
Finally then, Emma, what are your hopes for the future of the trail?
Henley has so many international events, the regatta, the festival, Rewind. I'm hoping that the Arts Trail will become a bit more international, or maybe national as at an English level, and bring people from other districts to Henley. It's such a gorgeous area, gorgeous venues, and hopefully kind of get people coming, regular visitors from outside the local area. So build it nationally, maybe internationally.
That was ceramicist Emma Payne, and if you want to find out more about the trail, go to henleyartstrail.com. Thanks for listening to the RG10 podcast. We will be back in a couple of weeks for the last episode in the series. Do join me then. Goodbye.